I think one of the things that will never leave my mind is the first time I interpreted at a church. I was doing my musical, interpreting for the songs Oceans, and the deaf client cried. And in that moment, everyone else is crying, my deaf client's crying, I'm holding back tears, and that is something in interpreting we call specifically dynamic equivalence. And that means whatever the hearing person is getting, the emotion, the meaning, the actual wordage completely matches that of what you're interpreting. That is just a fantastic moment in my career. My name is Zachary Gage Bone. I'm an American Sign Language interpreter, and I teach American Sign Language at Golden West College.
We got Gage, Bone.
I started out as a skateboarder. I moved through the ranks of that, became a professional skateboarder. It's what actually got me out here in California. But eventually it got to a point where I was getting too hurt all the time. I had torn 3 ligaments in my right leg, at least 2 ligaments in my left. So at that point, I was kind of in despair as far as what I was gonna do. I had always considered myself to be a skateboarder, and I didn't really have other skills outside of that. I'm dyslexic. I had tons of IEPs, so individual education plans, where they told me that I was just gonna suck at reading and writing for the rest of my life. And as a kid, you don't really understand what it means or how to overcome those things, so they put me in special classes. They put me in a study skills class where they were like, yeah, this is where you'll come, and you'll learn how to be better at writing and reading. Teacher didn't give a crap. She showed up, she got her paycheck, while I decided to take it upon myself to start helping out the other students. But also I took American Sign Language because it was a visual language. I wouldn't have to write, I wouldn't have to read, I would just take American Sign Language, and all of my visual work and all of my auditory processing would come to benefit me rather than to be my normal disadvantage. One of my friends really got me into comic books. There was a comic book store down the street, so we started going there, and I was buying comic books, and I realized that as I was buying comic books, it really started to help my American Sign Language interpreting, because the mixture of form between actual language written and art is in the same way that we kind of have to interpret. We have to pull out what is the English grammar structures of things, and then we have to envision what that looks like and what that means, and then we have to sign it in a visual format that makes sense in a way that is focused on in real life objects. Those days teaching in that study skills class, when our fucking teacher just refused to do anything, and seeing students who hated math start enjoying it, students who hated writing start enjoying it, because they finally had someone who approached it in a way that made sense to them, showed me what it meant to be a real teacher. And that is my entire philosophy when I'm teaching American Sign Language now. When it was first noticed as another virus that was going to take over the world, I didn't think much of it, and clearly no one else did. 2 weeks later, campus is closed, so all classes got shifted online. The minute that the campus was closed, my goal shifted into creating as many videos and tutorials on how to do my normal lectures. I had to work through the summer without pay. We're all just trying to get all of these technologies understood, and meanwhile there's tons of issues constantly going. Interpreting as a profession is a live, typical thing. So is teaching. American Sign Language is a 3-dimensional language, right? So seeing it on a 2-dimensional screen where you don't necessarily have the best version of depth perception, there isn't the the angular understanding, there's no feedback in the way that I can teach, it becomes a very sterilized version of what ASL is. Deaf people are often viewed as disabled instead of otherly abled, and that puts a bad precedent because the deaf community as a whole views themselves as a culture, not a deficit. They just want interpreters, they want access. They can call people on the phone, they can drive, they can do everything that you can.